Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the GBYWN Australia podcast. This is my second attempt at doing this one. I already recorded the whole fucking thing before, but it's fucked up. So now I've got to do the whole fucking thing again. It only takes half an hour, but I've got to get through it again. GBYWN Australia podcast. I'm your host, Aston Crude, and here today I'm giving the State of Australian Backyard Wrestling address to all of you out there in GBYWN world. For the first half of this interview, we'll be talking about some other federations that some people out there might not be too aware of. And the first federation I'm going to talk about is one called XCW in Geelong, Victoria, not to be confused with XCW here in Perth. XCW in Geelong have decided to hang up the boots and cease doing shows from here on in. Now that's a shame. It's always good to know that there's other backyard wrestling out there, and for a long time it was just WCWA and XCW Geelong doing backyard wrestling in Australia, from what I can gather. But they've decided to close their doors for good. Kind of sad, really. This is something that's a big part of people's lives, I've found over the years, backyard wrestling, and it is a shame that they are no longer going to be performing, for them anyway. I feel like it's a shame for them. They faced a lot of problems through their time in Australian backyard wrestling, namely a lot of politics going on behind the scenes from what I can gather, and along with that, people not committing to it, not sticking with it on the roster. People came and went quite a lot over there, and they were also hindered by the fact that they wrestled on mattresses in a garage, so that didn't help their quality of shows, that's for sure. But in the end, if they had fun, then they accomplished all that you're supposed to accomplish doing backyard wrestling, and that's have fun. And I'm happy for them if that's the decision they've made and they're happy with that decision, but it's a shame to see any backyard fed fold, no matter how anyone feels about their abilities or all that. So I wish everyone from XCW Geelong the best, and I've made some cool contacts through those guys: Seth Silver, Andrew Riley, Ben Nero, some very nice guys. From there, I'm going to talk about TCW, Titanium Championship Wrestling in Oakleigh, Victoria. These guys have been gone for about a year, apparently. Excuse me. They've gone for about a year. But I didn't know that they even existed until about a month ago. Really nice guys. Well, a couple of them that I've spoke to. I think the guy in charge is Mitchell. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I think it's Mitchell. He's a really nice guy. He takes advice on board really well. Recently I had watched some of their stuff, and it is borderline unwatchable, and I don't mean to say that as a bad thing. I don't mean to say that as like I'm being a cunt or anything like that. I'm not trying to be a cunt, I'm just being honest. It's borderline unwatchable. They've got a lot to improve on, and I barely got through their latest show, and once again I don't mean to say that to be mean, I'm just being honest. They know they've got a lot to improve on, and Daniel Johnston took it upon himself to give them some advice, some feedback on what he's seen in some of their footage. And I thought this was a great thing for him to do, because he's been doing backyard wrestling for 8 years or so. He knows quite a lot. He's got some good ideas on what they can do to improve, and I agree wholeheartedly with everything that he said. But apparently my podcast, which created this chain reaction, which ended up getting DJ to give this advice, my podcast has stirred a little bit within TCW. My podcast with Andrew Riley about a month ago. So DJ went ahead after finding out about TCW and decided to message them with his feedback, and for the most part everyone agreed. Everyone took the advice on board. They didn't agree with anything, fair enough. But for the most part, they enjoyed the advice and will be taking it on board. Well, there's one guy there called the Mighty Beetroot. I don't know this guy. I've never spoke to him before. But he lashed out at what DJ said, and he said some really disrespectful things like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, he doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about. He's creating shit within our Fed. He's creating politics because of this, blah, blah, blah. From what I can understand, Mighty Beetroot, if you're listening, you have a false sense of ego. You don't need to have an ego in backyard wrestling. It's backyard wrestling. If you're not very good, you're not very good. I wasn't very good when I first started. It took me years to be good at backyard wrestling. It took me years to be good at wrestling, period. Whether it's talking on the microphone, my character, my wrestling ability, it took me a while to get good at it. But what you guys have to your advantage is people who've been doing this for 8 years. Me, doing it for 15 years. You have us who can give you advice on what you need to do to improve. And if you're not willing to take that advice on board, then how are you going to improve? You need to be able to take constructive criticism, Mighty Beetroot. If you can't take constructive criticism and you can't take it on board and try to improve, then what's the point in doing it? Because you're obviously not having fun if you're not trying to improve. And you guys have got a lot to improve on, and for the most part, everyone agrees with what I've got to say, what DJ's got to say. So maybe, if you think about it, if everyone but you agrees with it, then maybe you're in the wrong. Maybe you've got this ego that you don't really need to have, and you need to just accept the fact that maybe you're not the best at what you do. You're not amazing immediately at what you do. It takes time to get good, man. So you just need to chill out on the negativity and all the harsh comments that you made towards DJ, because I'll tell you what, DJ went out of his way to give you advice. When we were all younger, when DJ was younger, when I was younger, we tried to get advice from other people from over east. They didn't give a shit. They didn't help us out at all. Maybe one or two people were cool, but for the most part, no one gave any feedback, no one gave any advice. They just ridiculed. And for us to go out of our way to help is a complete 180 from what those people were like to us. So you need to be thankful in the fact that we're looking out for you and we want to help you out. Don't, lash out at DJ. Don't lash out at me because you think you're so high and mighty with your ego there. You need to just keep your ego in check and realise maybe, these guys have made a good point. Maybe it would be good if we listen to this advice and improve our product so that it can become quite watchable. And you guys have got the passion for it, and I know you will get there. It's just going to take some time, and you've got to take that advice on board, because if you don't, then everyone else is going to improve, and you're going to be left behind, and you're going to be the one that sucks. So if you take it on board and you try to improve with your friends there, then you'll all be on the same level. So that's all I've got to really say about TCW. I will say, I think you guys shouldn't have a show called Resolution. We've had it now for 3 years. You need to get rid of that name. It's already established with WZWA. You can't do it. If you want to keep doing it, fine. It's not going to really bother us that much. But I'm just saying, if you want to separate yourselves from us, or separate, make it, because from the outside people think that you're copying us. Which is obviously what's going to happen. So if you want to, not have that stigma of copying anyone, then I suggest maybe you get rid of the name Resolution for any of your events. But, that's your decision. It's none of my business, really, what you do. But I'm just here giving advice, and you guys are a great bunch of guys from what I can gather. And I wish you nothing but the best. And, you guys are the only Victorian Backyard Wrestling Federation that I know of, so good luck to you. We need you. We need you guys to flourish so Australian backyard wrestling can get to a higher level than it is at this current time. So from there, I'm going to talk about the South Australian Wrestling Federation. These are guys that I've been talking to for maybe the last 6 months or so. What a great bunch of guys. They are just so passionate about what they do. I'm astounded. I really am astounded. I think it's just awesome that these guys care so much for what they're doing, and you can see it with what they're, the way that they've improved, the way that they take this advice that we've given people on board, and they don't lash out. They just take it as it is, and they move forward and try to improve, and they've improved by leaps and bounds over the last few years. You look some of the old footage compared to now, it's light years ahead, and they're only going to go on the up and up, which is why I was trying recently to get Rad Hazard to induct them into the GBYWN, because I think it would be good for Australian backyard wrestling to have somebody else representing Australia in the GBYWN, and it would be good for the SAWF. They'll get a bit more exposure, which is exactly what they need. So, SAWF, I wish you nothing but the best, and hopefully at some point I can fly down there and have a match for you guys, because I think it'll be a great time. And these guys do a show once every 2 weeks. They used to do 1 show a week. Crazy that these guys can be that dedicated. I have a hard enough time getting through 1 show a month, let alone once a week. That's incredible to me. So from there, we're going to go to a quick advert break, and I'll be back with you with some huge announcements regarding WZWA and huge announcements regarding another backyard wrestling federation here in Western Australia. I'll be with you after these messages. Is your love life really shit right now? Do you not have any chicks out there that want to suck that dick? Do you not have any chicks out there that want to bounce on that dick until you come white load into them? Well, if you want to fix your boredom, then I've got a great idea for you. Check out the GBYWN podcast on YouTube, hosted by an array of many people throughout the GBYWN, and sanctioned, as usual, by the leader of the GBYWN, Rad Hazard. So, if you've already had a wank tonight, and you're bored, then check out the GBYWN podcast, only on YouTube. And we are back here on the GBYWN Australia podcast. Once again, I am Aston Crude, 11 times heavyweight champion. And here I'm going to talk about a bit of WZWA. As some people out there may know, we were having some hard times earlier in the year. It looked like we were going to be losing our venue. So we had a 2-month break after Resolution 3. And during that 2-month break, a lot of things went down, man. We were losing our venue. We weren't sure if the next show was going to be the last one, or we were going to have 2 more shows and that was it. Then we didn't know if maybe someone was going to buy the ring from us, and then we would have a different venue in Baldivis, which is about an hour away from where Jack's house is, at the WCW Arena, as we've called it. So we were real worried about all that, and the stress took its toll on everyone so much, because we thought we were losing something that was really special to all of us. And during this time, a few setbacks. We had some retirements from backyard wrestling. As we know, at Resolution 3, Mike Delcano and Alex Stone retired, which was a huge blow to us, and those spots of the top two or three baby faces there, those two were right up there, and to lose them two was a big blow to us. But all the best to Mike Delcano in his pro wrestling venture. All the best to Alex Stone in Vice Versa, his band. Check them out. But we'll get Alex Stone every now and then. He'll have a match here and there. He isn't retired for good. He's just going to come back periodically, like a Chris Jericho. He's got a band. Alex Stone's got a band. Same fucking thing. And they also use the Lion Tamer as well, so fuck me. But during this time, real sad time for me, because there are a few people who I've become quite close with who decided to retire as well. Initially, Nick Ariel was retiring at Resolution 3, but thank the Lord, thank the almighty Lord, Nick Ariel will be coming back on the 16th of May to wrestle me. I'll get onto that a little bit later. So thankfully we've got Nick Ariel for a little bit longer. From there, Daredevil Brian Lowe, former WCWA heavyweight champion, a big part of the roster, had improved so much over the years. He decided to hang up the boots. He was no longer even watching wrestling. He was bored with it. He's got other things he wants to do with his life, which is fair enough. I know from 15 years of backyard wrestling, people come and go, people lose interest and grow out of backyard wrestling, and that's fair enough. But there is hope that down the line, Brian Lowe will pop in from time to time to have a match here and there. So hopefully he's not hopefully he's not retired fully. He's semi-retired, and he'll just come back and help out when he can, when we need someone to fill in, or maybe just a short little feud between him and someone. Who knows? But hopefully Daredevil Brian Lowe will be back in a WCW ring in the future. Also during this time, Clint Marshall, the revolutionary Clint Marshall, former ICWS heavyweight champion, GBYWN Australian heavyweight champion, huge name in Western Australian backyard wrestling. He decided to hang up the boots as well. He's busy with university. I believe he's in a course which is really highly regarded, and he's got to focus a lot of attention on that. So fair enough, he's got a lot of things going on in his life, and I feel bad a little bit about his WCWA time, because he didn't win any championships. He only really got to have one good feud with Mike Delcano, but there were a lot of factors which stopped him from having great feuds. Namely, he had a tag team partner, Phaser, at the time, and Phaser dropped out just before they were going to win the tag team championships, and all these feuds we had lined up kept getting screwed over because people were no showing, or all these different factors were coming into play to screw with Clint Marshall's time in WCWA. So I feel kind of guilty about that. I think he should have been put in a higher spot, because Clint Marshall was a big deal in the ICWS. He was a main eventer. He should have had the chance to be a main eventer in the WCWA. If he continued on, hopefully we would have got there. In the back of my mind, I was always thinking, how do we get Clint Marshall up to a higher spot in the card? And, like Brian Lowe, this year Brian Lowe was going to be WCWA heavyweight champion for a second time. Without a doubt. I had that in mind. I wanted to bring him back to the main events. I think it was time for him to get back to that spot that he had. He had grown so much as a performer, and Clint Marshall was another guy that would have been higher up in the main events. And like a Mike Delcano as well, he would have been going for the heavyweight championship at some point as well. From there's another retirement which kind of irks me a little bit, because it's the second time he's retired in about 5 months. Brandon Cage. I really like the guy as a person, but when it comes to WCWA, he was a pain in the ass quite often. He didn't know what he wanted. He'd suddenly be keen for something, then all of a sudden he wanted to retire. Then less than a month later, he would pitch a storyline idea for his return, and that kind of annoyed me, because we had plans for him leading to Resolution 3, and then he bailed, and then he wanted to return, and then I couldn't fit him in because we'd already come up with all the storylines for the year leading to Resolution 3, so he had to wait. He waited. He got to fill in for Chaos at Resolution 3 against Three Dog, which was a great match. But then once again, during the break of WCWA, through all the uncertainty of the venue and all that, Brandon decided to retire. We've talked about this on other podcasts, namely the one with Daniel Johnston and with Mike Delcano. We talked a little bit about this, but I'm very disappointed because I saw a bright future for Brandon Cage. He quite possibly could have been a champion at some point this year. He had great storylines lined up for him, ones that were going to give him the opportunity to cut shoot promos, to stand out of the pack. And this year's all about those young guys taking the spots of the Brian Lowe's, the Mike Delcanos, the Alex Stones, the Clint Marshalls. Brandon Cage was going to be one of those guys like Circus Royale, like AAA, all those young guys on the roster who are chomping at the bit to get to a higher spot in WCWA. They've been waiting a long time. This year is their year. I'm taking a step back. I'll be mid-card. It's time for other people to take that spotlight. So yeah, You know, all those retirements. It's just, it sucks, you know. Big setback for WCWA, but luckily we had a roster of about 27 people. So we still got 20 strong right now. But unfortunately, a decision has been made by Dark Ice, a guy who previously retired in October or November of 2012 due to his condition of psoriasis. This led to him being inducted into the GBYWN Hall of Fame. You know, and I kind of worry that he only got inducted because he had to retire due to his psoriasis. But he has made a lot of contributions to Western Australian backyard wrestling, so eventually he would have got it. But as I was saying, Dark Ice has decided once again to hang up the boots due to some problems he's having physically, being able to perform the level that he wants to perform at. I've got high hopes that the Suburban Nightmare Dark Ice will be back in a WCW ring before the end of the year, in time for Resolution 4. But that's just me being with some wishful thinking, I suppose. I really don't want him to retire. I think there is a way he can work around this, and we can work around this to get him to have at least an occasional match. We can build up feuds with him and someone else without him actually having to wrestle every single show. There can be a way around this, but as it stands right now, his match with Kilowatt Chaos on the 16th of May will be his last backyard wrestling match, which is upsetting, you know, because he's like the locker room leader, and, you know, that's locker room in quotations. We don't have a locker room, but he's the leader of the boys backstage. He's one of the leaders anyway, and he'll still always be there at every show, obviously, but to not see Dark Ice perform anymore is a crime. A crime on backyard wrestling, a crime on the WCWA. It's such a shame because he had so much more to achieve. He's only been a one-time WCWA heavyweight champion, and I have no doubt he would have been a tag champion. He would have been heavyweight champion again. The sky was the limit for Dark Ice, but at the moment, he's being held back by some physical limitations, and I just hope that if he hears this, he probably won't, because I don't think he's listened to any of them so far. So if you're hearing this, Ice, good work. You've listened to at least one of these, bro. But I just really hope he can come back at some point, because it will be a big loss to WA yarding and Australian backyard wrestling for the Suburban Nightmare to no longer be an active wrestler, especially when he's just hitting his stride right now as being, you know, one of the all-time greats. He reminds me a lot of Diffuser. For those not sure of who he is, he's an Australian Backyard Wrestling Hall of Famer. He wrestled in my former federation, XCW, and he made his last ever backyard wrestling appearance at Resolution 3. Dark Ice reminds me of him. And that's really all I've got to say about the situation. From there, JD Flame may or may not be retiring this year. I'm not sure where he's at. He's happy being the commissioner of the WCWA right now, and he's doing an incredible job on the microphone, and he had a great 2014. But as far as an in-ring competitor, he may be retired from that this year. He may continue on as commissioner for quite some time, but as it stands right now, he might have one, maybe two matches left in him, which is a shame because he was just hitting his stride as well, and his 2014 was the best year JD Flames ever had in backyard wrestling. And I've no doubt in my mind that within time he would have held several championships in the WCWA. So that is a shame, and it's sad for me personally, because I've seen this guy who has improved tenfold over the last year and a half, and I couldn't wait to see what else we could do with him, because he's just got so much talent in all areas, whether it's in the ring, whether it's on the microphone. His character is well defined, he stands out, he looks like a superstar. JD Flame could have been a heavyweight champion at some point. So with that being said, the new deal we've got in place with Jack Wallace's dad is is that WZWA will be having 6 shows a year, and hopefully, that will also mean we might get to have a small show here and there. We've had a few small shows in the past. It's like a show with maybe only 5 matches, whereas a usual WZWA show might be about 10, possibly 11 matches. So 6 shows a year, that's fine. We can get what we need done in 6 shows. And if we add a couple of small shows here and there, that will help out a lot. But as it stands right now, WZWA is back. We are setting the bar higher than ever this year. If you thought 2014 was good, you thought 2013 was good, motherfucker, wait till you see 2015, because this is the year of all those younger guys to rise up and take the spots of those Brian Lowe's, those Mike Delcanos, those Alex Stones, those Clint Marshalls, you know, those Dark Ices. They're going to take the top spots in the WCWA, and I can't wait to see how they ascend to those positions over the coming months, with, of course, once again, yours truly and the booking committee of Bladeshaw, Ryan Tate and Luke Monet helping out, map out the future of WCWA. 2015 is going to be a great year. Coming up on May 3rd, we've got a show called WZWA Bowl of Mixed Nuts. This is a little bit of a joke between the WZWA guys, as a local pro wrestling federation. All Action Wrestling had a show this year called Anniversary, and at this show they had former WWE superstars on the show. It was a packed card in a bigger venue than usual, and they were offering like a table right at the front for like $200 or $300, and what you got with that package was, you know, you get to have the meet and greet with the superstars before everyone. You got to have the front row seats. You got to be seated before everyone. All this stuff. And then right at the end, they threw in the sweet deal of, you will also receive a bowl of mixed nuts. And we just found that hilarious, because it's like, you know, the people sitting behind them probably paid $30 for their ticket, $50, whatever, for their ticket. You know, 5 meters behind them. They pay $200 to sit about 5 to 10 meters closer to the ring or whatever. And the upside of all of that is they get a bowl of mixed nuts. So we're taking the piss at the next show. Bowl of mixed nuts, WZWA version. No former WWE superstars will be on the show for those playing at home. But it's going to be a great show. Main event, Mykonos defending the WZWA Heavyweight Championship against Kilowatt Chaos. We'll also see Luke Monet facing Jack Wallace one-on-one, hopefully for the last time. Yours truly, Aston Crude against Steel Kemsley. We got Night Stalker Daniel Johnston taking on Badass Bladeshaw for the first time ever. Along with Circus Royale taking on AAA in a rematch for the tag team titles that we saw at Resolution 3. And what could possibly be the feud-ending match between Rex Regum and Antilochus. Along with that, Dan Zeppelin will be there, Ryan Tate will be there, Dark Ice will be there. It's going to be a great show. May 16th will be a big show. May 3rd is a small show, 16th is a big show. Still hasn't been named yet, but this is going to be a great event. This is going to be the turning point of WZWA for 2015. There's a lot of surprises going to be taking place on this show. We've got some surprises on the 3rd, but we've got even more on the 16th, which will be main evented with Mykonos once again putting his belt on the line against Three Dog. This is from their feud that began at Hard Time 4. Should be a great main event. And Mykonos is, you know, representing the GBYWN as the Australian Heavyweight Champion as well. He's doing great so far. And also on that show, you will see me face Hall of Famer Nick Ariel. You will see Johnny V, another Hall of Famer, on the card, taking on Luke Monet. You will see Dark Ice's last ever backyard wrestling match as it stands right now against Kilowatt Chaos in a Twisted Metal death match, which is to be explained at a later date. We've got Antilochus against Kai Fusion, and a few other surprises here and there on the card. Should be a great show. Really looking forward to it. So with WZW out the way, I'm going to relight my cigarette, and I'm going to bask in the glory of this next huge announcement. Rad Hazard, if you're listening, get ready, because you're about to shoot a white hot load in your pants. This Sunday, the 26th of April, 2015, the ICWS makes its return to backyard wrestling after 15 months, 14 months, I don't know, 13 months without a show. We had Aussie Anarchy in 2014 in January. Finally, the ICWS returns to backyard wrestling, returns to Australian backyard wrestling. This was the company, the Backyard Fed, that waved the flag for backyard wrestling in Australia for many years. XCW was gone, there was nowhere else going on, no other feds over east were doing anything. IYHWA was gone, LCWA was gone, YWF was gone. ICWS was the only federation waving the flag for Australian backyard wrestling. And it makes its return, and I'm so excited because we get 6 shows a year with WCWA. On those off months, ICWS will be having shows. So it's going to be great. Yarding is going to be as strong as possible with 2 active federations in Western Australia. The SAWF in South Australia, TCW in Victoria. We've got some representation in different states here in Australia. To have the ICWS return is just such a blessing for all of us. We get to wrestle every month. We get to do ICWS again, which has been so fun for so many years. Wrestling on the base, it's less stress for all of us. It's not hard to set up. We're going to have a great day. I face Kilowatt Chaos in the main event for the ICWS Heavyweight Championship. We will see Nick Arrow versus Daniel Johnston one-on-one for the first time ever. We will see a new championship being contested for by Big Red Ryan Tate and Rex Regan for the ICWS Junior Heavyweight Championship. We will also see an array of other guys on the card. Should be a solid show, and I can't fucking wait. Blade Shaw's even going to wrestle in ICWS, which I didn't expect, but it's happening. Can't wait. So with that being said, there is something else to announce. And drumroll, please. That was a shit drumroll. At ICWS Thug Life this Sunday, we will see the return of a legend. A man who has not wrestled in backyard wrestling for 4 long years. And I'm talking about the guy who, along with me, joined the Australian Backyard Wrestling Hall of Fame in January of this year. Wicked Nick James, an ICWS original, will be making his return to backyard wrestling as he takes on Kai Fusion. I can't fucking wait. I can't wait to see if he's still got it. I think he will. I think he'll be even better than he was before. And the crowd are going to be there anticipating this big return to the ICWS on the ICWS's return show here in 2015. A new era for the ICWS, a new era for the WZWA, a new era for WA yarding is upon us. Along with those guys over in South Australia, the guys in Victoria, things are looking real positive all along the board here in Australian backyard wrestling. Anyway, that is my big address here today, the state of Australian backyard wrestling, by yours truly, Aston Crude. So that's it. I'm Aston Crude. Thank you for listening to the GBYWN Australia podcast. Hopefully later this week I will be sitting down with an interview with none other than the GBYWN Australian Heavyweight Champion Mykonos. And of course we need to get to part 2 of my interview with Ryan Tate, this time talking about WCWA. And at some point I'm going to get an interview going with Blade Shaw. We got part 2. We need to talk about a bit of XCW, a bit of WCWA, and by that point, hopefully ICWS once he's made his debut. So thank you for listening once again. I'm Aston Crude, and I will see you, or you will hear me, next time.